Thank you, everyone, for coming out. It's a big week for us, not only with the ball game here tomorrow night against UConn, but then a short turnaround for our game at Clemson on Saturday. A Clemson team that's playing extremely well, the best that they've probably played in the 6 years that we've been a part of the ACC. So not only is it going to be a challenge tomorrow night, but I'm expecting a challenge on Saturday.
What does a game like this do for your program, for the sport?
Well, I think it's great for women's basketball. We have to come out and do our job again tomorrow night. Unfortunately, we were a little short up there at Notre Dame, but for 1 versus 2, it's a 2-point game with 1:40 to go in the game. Now I know the final score I think was 12 or 13, but it was a ball game. Anybody could win the last 2 minutes, and I think that's what you want. And tomorrow night, it's going to be a challenge. It's another great UConn team. Gino's done a fantastic job. They've got scores at all 5 spots. They're pretty much playing 5 guards. But Nafisa Collier and Katie Lou, they both rebound the ball so well. They've got great size to them. So it's going to be a challenge, but I think it's great. I think we're over 15,000 sold right now for the game tomorrow night. And I think that speaks volumes not only for our program, but for their program, obviously, and the fans of women's basketball that we have in the city.
And speaking of Notre Dame, defensively, you all have really kicked out the last 5 games. What was it about that Notre Dame game where you changed something that you're holding opponents under 50 points?
Well, we really haven't changed anything. We're just continuing to get better, which is something that I said at the beginning of the year. I mean, defense is something that we will get better with as we go throughout the season. We spend most of our preseason working on offense because if you can't score, it can be a long year. So I always believe you can get better defensively, but it's hard to get better offensively as you go throughout the year. So, and as you get game film, you're able to prep and prepare and come up with game plans to try and stop people. So our kids have done a fantastic job, and hopefully we'll be able to keep things going. Now, I don't expect to hold UConn under 50.
They are a team that scores a lot.
Unless most of them don't make the trip.
Can Samuelson be
turn the lights out after that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They score a lot, and you've held your last 5 opponents to under 50. How do you see the pace scenario for this one?
Well, I mean, they score 82 a game. I'm expecting it to be up and down. I'm expecting it to be something where we have to try to limit their transition baskets. Okay. It's a ball club that if you let them run, it can be a long night for you. Because the thing about it is whoever gets the rebound can go. It's not a traditional throw it out to a guard. Nafisa Collier played a guard in high school, played a guard her first 3 years. And now she's just more at the pinch post form right now within their offense, but she can handle it, get a rebound, go coast to coast as well as anybody else. So it just changes your dynamic of how you try to stop the ball in transition.
So how do you beat them?
Got to score more points.
Yeah.
I know it's obvious, but it's the truth. I mean, if you can't score against them, it's tough. You've got to be able to score the basketball, and then you can't allow them to go on runs. I mean, that's we're 0-17, I think, in my 12 years here, because there's sometimes we played them 4 times in a year, and there's a lot of those games you can go back and find a 5 or 6 minute stretch where you go on a scoring drought, and all of a sudden it's a 15-0 run, and the game's over. That's what you can't allow to have happen. And for us, last year was the first quarter. We just had a terrible first quarter, and a lot because of what they did. It's not this we just played bad. And then when you get up 15, up 18, as they do, it's just you're trying to climb back. You're trying to make sure you score every chance you have the ball, and at the same time you're trying to stop them. So you can't allow that to happen. You've got to figure out a way that if they're going to go on a run, it's got to be a 4 or 6 point. It can't turn into a 12 or 15 point run.
Were there any lessons learned in the Baylor game that they lost?
No, I mean, it's one of those Baylor's personnel is so much different than ours. When you've got 6'5" and 6'3" out there, 6'4" in the post, You know, their personnel's much different. So it's hard to take a bunch of what happened in that game and try to put it into ours tomorrow night.
You preach defense all season with this team, but this recent stretch, is it more of a thing where they're buying in, or is it more just how they're applying it in certain areas, particularly with shooting percentage?
Well, you know, I think we're doing a really nice job of contesting shots. We're there on a pass instead of being a step late or two steps late. We're rotating extremely well. We're playing in layers, and then we're following a scout report. You know, there are some players that are open, and they're open for a reason. You know, you want them to shoot. And then the players that we don't want to shoot, we're trying to make sure we're there defending. You know, our Florida State game, Kia Gillespie gets one clean look in the first half at the three-point line, and she makes it. You know, she's their leading scorer because we had a breakdown. But it was the only breakdown we had on her the entire game. So when we can be dialed in and we're all on the same page, we have a chance to be really good. I say it all the time. We're a good team. You know, when everybody does their job, we're pretty darn good. But we're not the best collection of individuals. We don't have just the best individual talent. But our kids have seemed to have bought in over the past few years. You know, since we've been here, be good at what you're good at. If you're a screener, be a good screener. Don't try to turn into a three-point shooter if that's not what you can do. And a lot of kids, it's hard to get them to buy into that. You know, if you're not a three-point shooter or someone leaves you open behind the three-point line, it takes some discipline to not shoot it. But I always tell them you aren't going to change your game in January and February. If you want your game to change, it's got to be done in the spring, in the summer, and the fall.
What do you tell your team, like final thoughts before you go in terms of a mindset or whatever? Is this like, you know, climbing the big mountain kind of thing? Because you guys have had a lot of success.
No, we have. I mean, we're 55-4 in the past 2 years. I mean, I don't think that's too shabby. You know, so it's not like we're having to sit here and try to make up some excitement or like, guys, it can't be done. But
sure.
No, I mean, so our kids are going into this ball game excited to play it. I mean, it's 2 versus 3. It's why you play it. It's why we schedule it. You know, and for us, it's like, hey, it's another opportunity to play one of the best programs in women's basketball.
That's kind of where I was going. Is this sort of not just a litmus test, but sort of like, obviously the big goals of Final Four and all. Does this help you regardless in terms of the big picture?
No, there's no question about it. I mean, because it's always nice to know, like, where are you right now? Like, where are we? And I think last year was really good for us at the same time because we realized, hey, you can't come out flat. You've got to come out prepared from the get-go because they came out and threw a few punches and put us on our back. Before you know, it's 22-3. So I thought that helped us as we went throughout the rest of the year. But at this point in time, I mean, we can't have that. We've got too much experience. We know how good they are. We've got a ton of respect for them. They aren't going to come in here and we're not going to know, you know, what they do and how good they are. But at the same time, we're not going to sit here and show up and be like, hey, you know, I don't know if we can beat them. I mean, sure. I mean, that's why you play the game.
On that mindset, how valuable are some of these big games that you've been in, you know, to prepare for something like this?
You know, I think it's great. I think the one unique thing about us is because of the fact that we do draw so well at home throughout the regular season, it really doesn't matter. We had 10,000 against Pittsburgh on Sunday. You know, 10,000's what some programs draw in 6 or 7 games combined. You know, so our kids are used to playing in great environments. And I attribute that to our fans because we do have very knowledgeable fans that actually love women's basketball around here. So I think our kids they aren't going to be shell-shocked at the environment. And we weren't when we played up at Notre Dame. But it's going to be exciting. There's no question.
Do you watch last year's game in preparation for this year's game?
Sure. We always go back and watch all of the games that we played, trying to figure out, you know, how did they guard Asia? What did they do with other players that are returning? And then, you know, they're a different team in some ways, and we're a different team. Mm-hmm. So you go back and you look at those things, and you try to figure out, okay, what did they do? What hurt us? And then what can we do in case they come out and defend those ways, what can we do to counter that?
With the benefit of a year of hindsight, do you have a feel for what happened in that first quarter and how you can make adjustments to prevent it tomorrow night?
Well, we missed shots. I mean, when we go back and look at it, we had some good shots. We just missed them. And that's one thing with this team. When you play UConn, if you've got open shots, you got to make them because they make them. You know, it's what it all comes down to. You've got to be able to score the basketball. One of the reasons UConn's defense is so good is because their offense is so good. Mm-hmm. You know, when you score at the rate that they score at, it puts pressure on you every single time coming down the floor that you've got to put the ball in the basket. So, you know, you've got to be able to have the confidence that when you've got an open shot that you can step up and make it.
In terms of fouls, how have they become smarter in terms of fouling? I mean, it was something that you talked about at Notre Dame, but this past 5 games, they seem not to be making that careless foul.
Well, I think part of it is they are really working hard. I mean, our players are doing a great job of trying to guard without using their hands. And at the same time, I've got to give them credit. I think because we've talked to them about it, you've got to also be able to adjust to the officiating of the game. You know, all games aren't officiated the same. And that's one of the things that you have to adjust to as a player. You know, our game at Florida State, I thought was officiated really well for the most part. I mean, I thought it was a pretty good officiated game. But there was a lot more contact that was allowed on both sides than our Notre Dame game, than the game on Sunday. So, you know, when we go into it, it's just important as coaches to know who's officiating the game. So we can try to help our kids, hey, this is a call that this official makes a lot. You've got to know it's going to come. So don't give them the opportunity to make the call. So our players have really done a nice job of adjusting as the year has gone to be able to play how the game is officiated.
You went without playing UConn for 2 or 3, maybe 4 years there when you joined the ACC until last year. What do you lack when you don't play them? Did you feel like last year playing them for the first time in a few years? There's only one UConn. Is there a sort of uniqueness to that game?
No, I mean, I don't think there's anything that if you don't play them, it's a bad thing. You know, for us, the challenge is really finding dates. Okay. You know, we're trying to extend the series the next few years, but with us going to 18 league games, it's harder to play a January, February game because we're only going to get one bye week in January and February next year, and I'm not going to play a non-conference game during that one bye week we get. Because you get somebody with a sprained ankle, you get somebody with a sore back, you don't ever get an opportunity to give them 3 or 4 days of solid rest because you've got a game every Thursday, Sunday for 2 months.
There are those that don't like non-conference games this late. I mean, the whole SEC, whatever's Big 12 series last weekend with Kentucky. I mean, both coaches talked about, you know, it's great, but kind of stinks too because we're really trying to focus. I mean, is it a good thing?
Yeah, no. When it works where we have 2 bye weeks, which it has the past few years, you know, last year and this year, I'm fine with it. I think it's good for our game. I think it's good for our kids. And at the same time, I think both our leagues have done a really nice job in the terms of scheduling, you know, because when you're going to play a game like this, now for us it's a little bit of a challenge now that we go Thursday night here and then we play Saturday at Clemson. So it's a quick turnaround, but Clemson has the same thing. They're at home against Notre Dame tomorrow night, and then they've got us on Saturday. You know, like it would have been a bigger deal if they had this was their bye week. And all of a sudden now you've got a whole week and we've got 1 day to prep and try to turn around. But I think that's what your league office is for, and the league does a really good job of that.
How was Asia's knee? I mean, how did that game off really help?
No, I mean, she's fine. She practiced yesterday, and she says she feels good. She said it felt good shooting. Just some wear and tear. You know, we've been playing her a lot of minutes throughout the year, and it was just one of those where without having that second bye week, I just said, hey, let's, after that Thursday night game at Florida State, we had talked about it. You know, I told her she would dress, and if she needed to play, then she'd play, but if not, we try to give it off, and she said that was great, and she said she feels better, and, you know, we'll just keep plugging away, because as I said, it's a quick turnaround after tomorrow night's game going to Clemson and play.
How do you think she feels about this game in particular? top
Oh, she's
five
excited.
She probably came here in part to play in this game.
Oh yeah, I mean she's really excited about it. I mean all of our kids are, and I'm sure UConn's players are also. It's a great opportunity for both teams.
You've got 9 regular season games left.
That's hard to believe.
That's hard to believe. So you're almost basically in the home stretch of the season.
Yeah.
How do you feel like you're where you are right now? Leaving this game out of it for a second.
No, I mean I'm pleased. I mean we went through the first half of the ACC, and at Florida State was a big win for us. At Duke was a big win, and then we're fortunate enough to win that Carolina game, Georgia Tech. We've had some good wins, and I will say it's going to get a lot tougher as we get going. At Clemson, which everybody thought was going to be a simple win, I think they were picked last in the league in the preseason poll, and now I think they're 5-2, 5-3 maybe. And then we've got Syracuse, who's coming into town, who's got an RPI of 6 in the RPI. Then we're back at Virginia, then Virginia Tech, who. That's one of those, if you don't follow our game, Virginia Tech's 0-7 right now in the league, but I think in 4 of them, they're up double digits in the fourth quarter. Just one of those devastating fourth quarters that have just kind of bit them in the butt, but you just don't want to be that team that they get it all going that one night, because everybody then's going to be like, I can't believe you lost to them, but they're actually a really good basketball club. Miami here at home is going to be tough, and then you got Boston College, who's playing much better, and then NC State, who's 20-0 right now, and a 7-0 in the league. So it's going to be a fun February. There's no question about it.
You're pretty good friends with Wes Moore. How's he getting it done there this year with that team?
Well, I think he's letting his assistants do it.
Is that
Yeah. Wes has finally realized I just going to let my assistants coach. Now, Wes doesn't. He's always done a great job. I mean, he did a great job at Chattanooga. He's got kids that have been hurt. He's had 2, I think, out for the year with an ACL. But he comes in with a game plan. So one thing I always respect about Wes, he's going to try to make your non-scorer score, and then his kids play really hard at the both offensive and defensive end of the floor.
But Gino, have you all had any kind of little back and forth, just messing with?
No, I haven't had a chance to talk to him really this year. I've watched his games, and they're fun to watch. But I'll get a chance to see him tomorrow before the ball game. I appreciate it, everybody. Thank you all for coming out. I really do appreciate it. No, thank you guys. You guys are great.